1979's The Dragon, the Hero, also known as Dragon on Fire, sees us once again dunk our head into the strange and ADHD-addled works of one Godfrey Ho. A man whose credit list is so large and diverse that even he himself doesn't know for sure how many films he worked on, either under his name or under one of many pseudonyms. The guy's a legend of martial arts cinema, probably best known for his work in cut-and-paste filmmaking. The process whereby Ho, or a film company working with Ho, would purchase films from Taiwan and other Asian territories that were either low, no budget, or unfinished, cut them down to around 50 to 70 minutes, and then go out and film enough new footage to bring it back up to runtime. Either that, or they'd just slam multiple films together to create some kind of abomination chimera. It was really whatever was available to hand, quite honestly. We've covered Ho's work previously with The Ninja Squad back in 2022. That was an example of his cut and paste work, but today we're going 100% Ho. As we take a look at a movie that, while it was entirely shot by Ho with next to no cut and paste footage, somehow manages to feel even less coherent than his cut and paste work. Explaining the broad plot of The Dragon the Hero is pretty easy. It's everything else that happens in the film that's the real problem. This is because the film's very confusingly set up, with several subplots that don't lead to anything, don't add anything, and don't really do much of anything other than kill time. The issue is, when you're reviewing a film like this, you kinda have to make a note of everything just in case anything becomes relevant later on that you need to thread back in. Having this kind of problem in a natively English-speaking film can be hard enough to try and explain, but then you have to run that problem through a translator, then back into very wobbly English subtitles or an even wobblier English dub, at which point it quickly becomes pretty impossible to really, truly grasp what's going on. The broad plot is this. We open in a village where a drifter is walking by looking to take part in a local fighting challenge. The rules are simple. You'll be matched with an opponent by the contest runner Chen Hao, and you have until the egg timer runs out to knock your opponent to the ground. Make it happen and you get $20. If the time runs out though, or you get knocked to the ground, you lose and get nothing. Our drifter, I believe, is called Tang, but I have seen multiple versions call him slightly different things, who takes on the challenge. He wins, collects his winnings, and announces to the viewers that he's going to use it to fund his trip home. After leaving, however, he's approached by one of Chen Hao's men who challenges him to a fight to the death, to reclaim the winnings. Tang survives the fight and heads over to a local outdoor market where a group of bullies are intimidating the vendors and basically causing trouble for the stalls. When they abuse an elderly man, his grandson tries to defend him, but gets thrown about as well, leading to an altercation between the bullies, Tang, and one of the men who works for the village called Ah Xian. Tang and Xian beat the bullies as a crowd of marketplace owners gather around to check the hubbub. Only they aren't cheering for the good guys. They're looking worried. A short time later, a somewhat elderly man being carried on a throne asks what's going on. It transpires that the village is under the rule of a mafia-esque racket operation, and that the bullies regularly go to screw around with the market owners because they basically run the village. Chen's boss orders the pair to apologise for their arse-kicking, which they do. But the bullies say that that's not enough and demand the option to beat Tang and Chen for their insubordination. Which they do, but this causes Chen to lose his mind and he beats the bullies again before resigning from his job. Around the same time, another drifter turns up for Chen Hao's challenge. His name is Tu Wu Shen, and he doesn't want to fight just one of Chen Hao's fighters, he wants 3 of them, which he dispatches within seconds of the egg timer being turned over. Shen offers him $60 for defeating the 3, but Shen has other ideas. He wants a job. He reveals himself to be a wanted criminal and one of only 2 people who know the strike, rock, fist technique of fighting, one of the most powerful techniques available. Chen Hao accepts him to the fold, but Shen says he works alone and asks for the 3 people he fought to be fired, which Shen does immediately. And it's here really that both plots kinda get tied up, as it's revealed that the bullies at the marketplace report into Shen Hao and that Hao has a very illicit antique stealing and smuggling operation going on. It's also revealed that Tang and Tu Wu Shen know each other, as Tang was the other person who mastered the strike rock fist technique. The pair trained together. We're also then introduced to the guy Shen Hao reports into, Ma Ti, a dangerous master of martial artistry whose special technique is the ability to copy other fighters' fighting styles near enough one-to-one. And as soon as Shen finds out about Ma Ti's ability, he realises he's not going to be able to overthrow the syndicate alone, leading him to seek out Tang in an attempt to resolve some multi-generational trauma between the pair so that they can unite before any more antiques get stolen and any more people get killed. In a high-kicking, kung-fu flying finale, will Tang and Tu manage to save the day? Will the bumbling field worker plotline actually be relevant in any capacity? And did I just see a dog bite a man's dick off? And why did it look like a foot-long kielbasa sausage? Oh dear. All this and more will be answered if you check out The Dragon the Hero. And having heard a few people talk about this film now, I'm under the impression that this is widely considered to be one of Godfrey's better works. And I just can't see it myself, honestly. Like, don't get me wrong, this isn't an unenjoyable film. Quite the opposite, it has plenty to keep you busy and watching. But having seen quite a few martial arts movies by this point, I just kind of got to the end credits of this one and went, oh, it's over? Okay. Part of this film's charm is also part of what I think holds a lot of it up, honestly, which is the script itself. It really does feel like this thing has 10 plots going at once. The fact that everyone dresses very similarly, combined with the dodgy sub and dub, means it becomes incredibly easy to lose track of who's who and what the main goal of the film is supposed to be. It'd be problematic enough as it is, but then compounding the issue will quite often end up in 5 to 15 minute subplots involving simpletons running what appears to be a cranberry farm, or a family discussing how old the mother of the family is, or the aforementioned sequence of the guy getting his dick bitten off by a dog. There are dozens of these moments dotted out across the runtime, and it made an already somewhat foggy viewing experience basically almost impenetrable. I watched this subtitled for the first 20 minutes before I realised the subtitles were very badly done, so I swapped to the dub, which was marginally better, but I still don't entirely know what went on. I then rewatched the movie with the Cinema Club's wonderful commentary track courtesy of Golden Ninja Video, and while that did help clarify a bit of it, I still feel very much in the dark about exactly what was supposed to be happening in this film. Though they themselves also argue that this is a very confusing film that seems to have a very clear primary plot that gets muddied by tangents. As such, the pacing is just all over the place. We have a fairly breakneck first act that screeches to a halt at around about a third of the way into the movie, giving way to a third act that's basically just one fight scene split across 3 to 4 different locations, with the subplots breaking things up even further. Ho does, however, make some of these subplots slightly relevant by giving characters from those moments 30-second cameos in the final fight. Usually where they do little to no fighting and generally just act confused or scared. Because there's so much going on, the film doesn't really land firmly with a tone either. There are moments played as comedic, moments played as horror or fantasy driven pieces, and the bulk of the film is played as a straight drama action type movie. It swings around between those styles, however, meaning you never really know what the film's intentions are, which stops the audience from being able to relax into the thing and constantly leaves them second guessing, which is exhausting. Equally, and this is a common problem for martial arts movies, the film just stops. It stops at what could be considered a natural pausing point, but nothing really gets resolved. The good guys knock the bad guys down and the film stops. We don't get to see the bad guys brought to justice, we don't get to see the good guys attain hero status. For all we know, after the credits card popped up, the bad guys could get back up and just murder them. But we as an audience will never know, which is quite annoying, as it would have been nice to at least have tied things off a little more coherently. Also, the dialogue's quite problematic too. I can't really review the dialogue as written because I don't speak the language, but the subtitle translation is dire, with improper English and poor punctuation used throughout. And the dub just oversimplifies everything, making it difficult to know whether the lines that were written were meant to have a campy comedic undertone, or if they were originally intended to be a bit more philosophical or deeper thought. The dub's the most coherent thing that I can understand, and I'd say it was inoffensive, but it would have been nice to get the actual intentions translated and inferred, rather than just some drunk voice actors putting whatever twist they wanted on the line delivery. As mentioned, this film was entirely shot and directed by Godfrey Ho. We went through his filmography in a previous review, but I'll just reiterate here that after making more movies than Roger Corman and David Dakota combined, Ho retired from filmmaking around 25 years ago and took up residency at the Hong Kong Film Academy, teaching the next generation of students how to make the movies of tomorrow. And I believe he's still there to this day. The script was written by Zeto. They have 175 writing credits, largely for martial arts movies and horror-themed flicks, in a career that ran from 1954 right up to 1992, with several collaborations with Ho in the mix to boot. On the direction front, it's competent, but I wasn't wowed. I think part of that is my own issues with Ho's style, but some of it is from just having seen quite a diverse range of martial arts films over the years. While it's clear Ho's involvement with the cast and crew was pretty firm, but not to the point of inflexibility, the best way to do it in my opinion, I feel like because the film is so diverse and wide-ranging in what it wants to do, while it's technically all on the level, it lacks a coherent voice. It lacks the drive that's required to take the elements that make a film look good and make it work. As it stands, watching this, I felt like I was watching someone's showreel. A quite well put together showreel, but a showreel nonetheless. A director's priority should be a three-way split between effectively communicating a vision to the cast and crew, creating a work that is distinct to the creator, and doing the above two in such a way that feels cohesive and makes sense to the audience. With Ho here, I feel like he's nailed the first two, absolutely, but it's failed to translate into a cohesive vision that's easily understood, which is a big problem if you're one of the paying audience goers. I will say, however, that direction of the cast is pretty superb. Given the utter chaos, the cast all pretty much stay in their respective lanes. They work with the set space very well and give the right tone of performance required to really take things to the next level. And with big hitters such as Dragon Lee, Bolo Yeung, John Liu and Mars all getting fairly meaty roles here, I think even if they'd have been having an off day, they'd have still given a half-decent performance. Ho's direction merely enhances that. As for the fight choreography, I can't say it's bad really, because it is solid enough, but that's about all it is. Solid enough to get you through the scene with very little else. Our performers all have unique skills and talents that they're known for, which do get utilised here to fairly good effect, but the fights can go on for an eternity and just aren't that complex or over the top. If you're going to do a 10-minute fight sequence, you ideally want to start off somewhat mild and then gradually get more and more over the top until you hit a crescendo of complex fighting, weapon play and crazy mythic moves. Hell, if you can make your fighters do some flying fighting, then even better. Here, it's all soft-touch combat, but the way it's been filmed, while usually masking the blow, doesn't emphasise any kind of weight behind the punches or kicks. They all look exactly like what they are, soft taps. There's a bit of flying about, some mild weapon play and some interesting mythic moments here and there, but broadly speaking there's nothing fancy to see here, and most of the fights are basically just soft punches and kicks with people occasionally getting knocked down. It's quite pedestrian all things considered and never escalates beyond some slightly complex hand movements, which was a real shame. It's rock solid in terms of nailing the basics and maybe even dabbling just above that level, but there's nothing here resembling a show-stopping moment, nothing that I couldn't find in at least 100 other martial arts movies. On the Cine front, much like the direction, it's fine, but it's nothing standout. It's low budget, it nails the basics, composition is largely acceptable, it's a little rough around the edges on blocking in the rule of thirds, but it's forgivable. It's just kind of a non-plus experience. Not helped at all by the print being a bit faded and that the film is only available domestically in a low-resolution format. It makes the darker scenes feel colour-crushed, which removes a lot of detail, and it makes the more colourful sequences feel quite dull. While there's a lot of variety present due to the many subplots, there just wasn't anything here that hooked me in. Nothing striking or out of the ordinary. It rocks up, does what it needs to do, and then gets out. Enough said. On the performance front, as mentioned, the cast pretty much are the main draws for this thing. They're all fairly animate, they use their space well, and seem to deliver dialogue with a high level of drama, as is custom with martial arts movies. Probably my favourite performer here is John Liu as Tu Wu Shen. I like his fugitive style of acting. His legs look like they could kick a train unconscious, and I think he gets a good range to work with across the runtime. I also personally have to shout out Kam Shung, who is just bizarre in this, playing a field worker who's a few sandwiches short of a picnic who seems to gurn and mumble incoherently across the runtime. It was such an odd time whenever he was on screen. And finally, the soundtrack, and it's largely stolen music from Western films. According to the Cinema Club, martial arts movies of this time owed a lot of their creative flows to the spaghetti westerns of the late 60s. As such, a lot of this soundtrack was made up of old Marconi offcuts and random western scores. I don't personally feel like it suits the tone the film's working towards, but I'd say it was better than Silence, so again, kind of a not bad, just odd choice for me there. As for the voice acting in the dub, it's actually a little underwhelming. Usually martial arts dubs come in one of two flavours, either ultra campy with the general vibe being that the recording cast had very little respect for the source material and were basically practicing their carry-on impressions during recording while waiting for the local bars to open, or it's the total opposite, very respectful, very precise recordings that try to capture the mood of what's going on. The dub here ends up falling between two chairs, not serious enough to be taken seriously, not campy enough to be funny, weird or enjoyable in any way. It's more serious than it is silly, but the silly moments stop the seriousness from being effective, and that in turn waters down the silliness from its full potential. It's just kind of there, honestly. The Dragon the Hero doesn't appear to have had a VHS release, though confusingly a film called Dragon on Fire that starred Dragon Lee and Bruce Lee did get a VHS release in the UK at some point in the mid-1980s. It seems like the first official release came in 2005, when it was released on DVD by Instant Vision, IVL, as part of their Hong Kong collection. No extras to speak of other than a scene select, it appears to have been cropped into 4:3 as well, which is a bit disappointing. Nevertheless, a better release would present itself via Gold Ninja Video, who released the film as part of a big box set on Godfrey Ho and his peers called Ninja Vortex in August 2020. Here, the film is still a little overly compressed on the PQ front, and it does have burnt-in subtitles, but it's the best I've seen this film look. And it's in its original aspect ratio, or as close as it's possible to get. We also get some pretty substantial extras on that set too, including the option to watch the film in dub or sub, a full feature commentary by the Cinema Club, a history of cut and paste cinema with some choice cuts on display of the genre, a Godfrey Ho retrospective, and a couple of great Easter eggs hidden on the disc too. It's a fantastic set that's very comprehensive about the cast and crew, and clearly a labour of love for Justin and the team who put it together. However, given how confusing this film is, I'd have maybe appreciated an expert's breakdown on what exactly I'd just sat through, or a more production-driven documentary to help give some context of how this ended up looking the way it did. Unfortunately, this set is now long out of print and likely won't be reissued, but if you're into this period of cut-and-paste martial artistry, I'm sure copies will surface on eBay from time to time, and I'd say they were worth the investment. Ultimately, The Dragon the Hero is confusing but inoffensive. I didn't come away hating it, I don't love it though. For me, it kind of met the basics that a martial arts movie needs to tap in order to fit the bill. With on-the-level direction and cine married up to some fun cast performances, it's really the script's total non-committal nature and random plot insertions that threw me out of this thing. I could see myself watching it again, but I don't think it'll be for a while. As it stands, if you are curious, the film is available in full on YouTube as part of the Wu-Tang collection, and I'd say if you are curious, it's pretty much right there and ready to go. Till next time.